Welcome back to another episode of the Wild Edible World podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Michael, but this episode you can call me Pliny the Elderflower.
And I am Sambucus Steve. Welcome to one that I'm very, very excited about. This is the Elderberry episode.
Or you can call it the Elderflower episode.
Yeah, the Elder episode.
The Elder Shrub. So the scientific name for this is sambucus.
Sambucus.
We're going to kind of talk about the general sambucus species. The one in our area that's native to our area, which is the eastern portion of the United States, is Sambucus canadensis. And we'll have some specific information about that if you are a local homie. But
if you do happen to be across the pond, for instance, you're looking at Sambucus nigra, which is very similar.
Oh yeah, they call it the black elderflower.
Yeah,
and a lot of the nutritional information I think is like transferable back and forth.
Exactly.
We're not going to go through.
I hope we have some
everyone.
people. I hope we have some people, and
I hope
that
this
would
is
be cool.
for somebody. In
Yeah,
our
that would
audience.
be cool.
Yeah,
I hope so.
Yeah.
We love you.
But first, let's talk a little bit about like where we are, what we're doing. We're not in our usual hangouts.
Yeah, I mean we're still outside.
Yeah, we're still outside.
We're just at this wonderful, wonderful brewery in Lisle.
Yes. Yeah, it's my local kicking grounds of actually an establishment I have collabed with in the recent past. If you're listening to this episode in 2022, there's a chance you might still be able to catch that collab where I contributed Spruce Tips.
Yeah, Spruce Tip IPA?
American IPA.
APA,
Yeah.
nice.
American Pale Ale, I guess
yeah.
makes sense, is what that is. With Spruce Tips on the end of it, so come check it out. But what we are enjoying right now, that was just released yesterday, August 4th, is Elderflower Wheat Ale, right?
Heck yeah, yes sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And by the way, in case we didn't throw this shout out before, Mike's stomping ground currently, place he did a collaboration with, Bubble House Brewing Company.
Yes, sir. Bubble House
Heck
Brewing
yeah,
Company. So they do
This
lots
place
of
is
really
awesome.
interesting beer, really good beer too. So yeah, we have Elderflower Wheat Ale from Bubble House to enjoy while we're talking about the elder shrub.
Yeah, I
what
guess
they used.
Guess we'll get into our usual.
Yeah, I mean it's a highly cultivated plant from all across the world with its various any temperate zones really.
Sure.
So I mean you have some information about different species, right?
Yeah. So I mean we already mentioned the species that's native to us. We talked about the Nigra, which is probably second, probably the most popular for most places other than here. And there's a couple subtle differences we'll get into after we start talking about the plants, but there's also racemosa, which is the red elderberry, which gets a lot of flack, but that stuff's still good too.
It's actually just as edible.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
there's some species of plants where people think if there's a white colored version that's
Sure.
toxic or inherently bad, and that is the case with I think one or two of some things that are popular wild edibles, but as far as elderberries, no, the white versions are okay too. There's one in Australia that is even popular to eat raw, which is kind of discouraged with elderberries for reasons we'll go into later, but they really enjoy it raw, and it's sour. It's even different in flavor as well.
That sounds delicious. I love sour things.
Yeah, me
personally.
too. Definitely.
So my first thing that I notice about this particular shrubbery is when they first show up on the scene, the flowers for me.
Yeah, I think the flowers are probably the biggest, most obvious because of how tall they are, how bright they are, and it's at a specific time in spring where there's just not that much happening yet.
Sure.
So,
and it's
really
just these huge clusters of these just beautiful flowers. They really are very attractive, 5-petaled with almost it almost looks to me like a starburst coming out from behind it.
Yeah, so it's got these 5 petals and then the 5 stamen in between each petal, so it does look just like sparkles.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And the flowers are prized just as much as the just as much as the berry.
Yeah, some people I think might even have the preconception that these are two different plants because one's elderflower, one's elderberry, but they are the same plant and they almost are as popular as each other. They both have equal amounts of uses.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And they're just as edible as each other, so we'll go into uses later. But we'll move along with some other descriptors about this plant. So we have this bright white / sometimes it can be kind of a creamy yellow 5-petaled flower, and they grow in like dense clusters. And then the leaves are they're pinnate, and they can be 5 to 9 leaflets along each large leaf section. And those leaves are about 4 or 5 inches long. It's described as a suckering shrub, so that means that it's got all these. It grows several heads out from the same base, so it's not like a tree where it has one base and then it's got things. Although trees do sucker, I guess.
Sure.
I guess it's more by design, right? That elderflower is a suckering shrub.
Yeah, elder is just really damn good at it.
Yeah.
It's one of its keys to like how it spreads. And all that other info. We'll get into that once again a little bit later. But that central stalk, or that even just the stalks, is another point you can cue in on when you're looking for them. Is they're like burgundy,
Oh yeah, no, they have this like really dark, beautiful dark red color almost. Like you said, burgundy I think is a good descriptor. So we'll move on to the, I guess, elderberry. What the clusters of flowers develop directly into these, well, I guess various colored berries, but most people are familiar with these dark blue to like black blue, or just black, or dark red. Yeah. So I guess the ones we collect around here are almost like purple. I guess Canadensis is kind of purplish.
Yeah, purple,
like
and even
red, blue,
even
black.
on the border of that like blue black, black blue, whatever.
I guess you should say black blue because I lead with blue, and then it's like no, none of these berries are blue. They're black blue. But yeah, they're really delicious, and they can grow in a variety of sizes. So I think it depends on the year too. So last year we had I collected. I was telling you, I am guilty of hoarding a bunch of berries, and then
a ton from what you're saying.
Yeah, a ton. I think conservatively like a half gallon's worth that's just been sitting in my freezer. And elderberry season has rolled back around, and I still haven't done anything with them. And I think last year's are quite a bit smaller than this year's. So whenever I saw how big this year's were getting, I was like, oh my god, I gotta process these.
I have a few patches that I'm monitoring right now that are just I feel like the berries are going to be huge, man.
Yeah. No, they're really good this year.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it is because it hasn't been the wettest year by any
and this is especially popular and especially useful right now because we're just at the tail end, hopefully, of a pandemic, and just illnesses. We're getting ready to turn the corner from summer into fall. You get all sorts of weird little illnesses and colds and things like that.
Yeah.
And so this is awesome timing, and the plant itself is in an awesome portion of its life cycle that's going to help us out. So this is just I would arguably say that this is the most beneficial medicinal plant berry combo that I can think of.
As far as folk medicine, yeah, definitely. And it has been classically used as such for such a long time. It has, just hundreds of years of success, if not longer, of course. I'm being extremely conservative there. That there's evidence of its success. But even going further about how awesome of a plant it is, cultivation-wise, it's really tolerant of a bunch of different soils. I was reading about how it stands up to pH levels, so it's you can have basic soil, acidic soil, whatever. It's actually going to be pretty happy. You don't need to have such specific stuff.
And it'll take unfavorable conditions next to a swamp.
Yeah, yeah. Most of the elderberries I find are right next to a creek, so
it's crazy easy to propagate.
Mm-hmm.
I've read a couple things where they said if you want elderberry in your yard and you have maybe an area that other plants aren't surviving, that you need something that can handle it, then you take a couple nodes worth of the elderberry cane and like so 2 nodes worth, maybe 14-inch piece. And by nodes, I do mean like the connection points. You'll know exactly what I mean once you look at the
plant points.
yeah once you look at the plant. And bury half of that in the ground so that one of the nodes is buried, and it will root from the nodes and from the buried stick itself, and yeah, you'll have elderberries in no time.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good idea. I mean, that's also useful for you to have in your personal garden as well if you have issues with nitrogen, because it is a nitrogen fixing plant as well. So it's just powerhouse, and it's a extremely rewarding berry. Like all the reasons in the world to break off a few nodes from your local plant and stick it in your backyard.
For sure. And these things, I mean, they're native plants.
Yeah.
They're supportive of several different species of insect and moth, and it's just incredibly useful to us. Mm-hmm. And I guess we'll take a little break, Ski.
Yeah, we'll cool off. I think it's time to grab another drink. Maybe I'll go for another elderflower ale, or we'll see. But we'll catch you on the other side with some nutritional facts and other ways we can use this plant. Thanks. Bye. Oh, yes. You're back on the Wild Edible World podcast.
And we're halfway there, folks.
Living on a prayer. That's the name of the beer we're drinking. Over here at Bubble House Brewing. We're still here.
And we're still awesome. Like this beer, which is just lovely.
Really, really good.
We drink a few beers, Michael and I.
Yeah, we know our way around a brewer, too.
And this one is outstanding.
Yeah. You can really tell get the interesting floral notes of the elderflower. It was used from like a family farm of the brewers. You should come over here and support this place. You can get this beer to go. I didn't have any participation in making it, but I would still love you to buy it because it's really awesome. And the can looks awesome, doesn't it, Steve?
It looks fantastic. This beautiful depiction of what an elderflower really looks like. And I think we know the person that designed this can, don't we?
Yeah, my lovely wife, Laura Feller. She does all the designs for their cans, and she's just like so infinitely gifted in the capacity she has to come up with different color combinations and patterns to keep up with the cornucopia full of beer releases that these guys have over here, which they're just constantly pumping out new stuff. So she's constantly pumping out those labels too.
And when you have really delicious beer and just really beautiful artwork, you can't miss, right?
Exactly.
And a really cool podcast recording on your patio.
Yeah, cool people that like cool stuff.
Cool
things, cool beans.
Cool.
So moving on with this super cool plant, we're going to talk a little bit about the nutritional benefits of the berries, which, again, this is the kind of broad and just generalized sambucus species. This is probably based off of Niagara, because that's the more commonly accepted. They are pretty transferable as far as like nutrition and vitamins are concerned. So at 100 grams of these berries, we're looking at about 73 calories, which is pretty cool. And then whenever you break it down into percentages, we got 80% water, 18% carbs, and then only about 1% is protein and fat. But that's not why we come to this berry, is it?
No. We this isn't a berry that you're going to come to because it is, plump and delicious like a blackberry or a raspberry or something like that. This is a berry that has medical or medicinal laurels to rest on, and it's so helpful and so useful as far as stuff like that goes. That's why you're doing it,
Yeah.
And
So, I mean, you say it's not like the sweetest berry. You said you ate some like off the branches a few days ago,
I
right?
did.
So, what's that like?
It was, mostly texture, a little bit of flavor, but not much, not sweet.
Okay.
And so this is probably a berry that is going to need some help. And also, just to put a little bit of clarity in what we were talking about just then, just widely it's believed you don't eat raw elderberry.
Right. Yeah, that is one of the concerns about it. Is that it is known that all parts of the plant have, except for the flowers, I'm pretty sure have
Cyanogenic glycosides.
Correct. Cyanogenic glycosides. So that's a compound that your body, during digestion, converts into cyanide. So definitely you always want to be mindful of that, but you also want to be realistic and use the modern resources that we have at hand to be able to determine how much of these compounds are actually existent in these berries and in these plants. So, normally we're not eating the bark or the leaves as a food. You can use it as a tea and stuff like that. But whenever you're talking about consuming mass quantities of this food, the closest to that danger you can come to is with the berries, because they do grow so prolifically and like by weight. That's the thing most likely people are going to eat. However, in order to so the regular European species of elderberry, you have to eat 13 pounds raw in order to consume an estimated, at like maximum estimated level of cyanogenic glycosides to convert into a lethal dose of cyanide. So there is an really cool unpublished study that I found. I guess I don't know if it's really cool if it's unpublished, but there are suggestions leading to the idea that the sambucus canadensis actually has significant less levels of cyanogenic glycosides, to the point where you would have to eat around 44 pounds.
Substantial.
A lot. So, and it actually is supposed to have less compounds than apple juice. So, even if you do eat a few raw, just make sure you spit out the seeds. I mean, it's going to be an interesting flavor. It's not going to be the most desirable thing, but it has that medicinal flavor. And a lot of that is because of the vitamins that are in these berries. So from most concentrated to least concentrated, we start off with potassium. So this actually has a ton of potassium in it. I don't have the exact milligrams written down per 100 grams, but it was in the 300 milligrams, over 300 milligrams of potassium, around phosphorus, calcium, magnesium, and iron as well. So it's just a lot of that, and calcium too. So got 36. I did write down 36 grams of calcium. I didn't write down the other ones, but it's a multivitamin essentially.
Sure.
And definitely something people have used for colds.
And that's actually perfect as the multivitamin because, I'd never eaten a raw elderberry before. I'd had liqueurs and syrups and things like that, and I'd never had one, so I tried a couple berries just yesterday, and it wasn't very good.
Yeah.
It was okay. It was all right.
Yeah.
But the point is that you wouldn't want to eat 14 pounds, let alone 14 ounces, let alone, you just don't. You're not. It's not going to happen. This is a berry that lends itself from being processed, and heating this berry in any way, as far as making a syrup or making a tea or something along those lines, it's going to denature that cyanogenic glycosides.
Yeah, that's true. I read, and this applies to, I wish I had mentioned this during the chokecherry episode, because that is what is inherent in the pits of chokecherries, is the cyanic glycosides. It breaks down at 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's the temperature of your mouth. Mm-hmm. So that's part of what's releasing whenever you get these almond flavors, is those cyanogenic glycosides being released and boiling off, essentially.
We should have a tally right here.
Yeah,
for
a tally or a swear jar type
you
deal.
You got it. You did it again.
But yeah, I mean, it's again this idea that while you should still be careful when ingesting wild foods or trying new wild ingredients for the first time, I believe that the danger of a lot of these foods has been wildly overestimated.
Yeah, agreed.
You know, you can eat a few of these raw and be fine. And the point is that like our systems of taste and the way our body works is so intuitive towards foraging and gathering and things like this that, like we were talking about earlier, you're barely even capable of eating enough to kill you because it doesn't taste good.
Yeah.
It doesn't taste that good. Obviously, it tastes like
It's not bad.
off. Like you can tell that it's got these medicinal qualities, and that's kind of a suggestion that it should be processed in some way.
Well, we've set the bar pretty high by like adding sugar to everything and over sweetening everything that we eat. So when we eat something like a natural this or a forage that, our taste buds are like, what is that? What are you doing?
Yeah.
But
what are all these compounds that I'm not used to?
Exactly. But I think we're going down a little bit of a rabbit hole.
Yeah, let's
Tell me about these sweet baby flowers.
So the flowers, yeah, they're really useful. They are edible raw. They're not necessarily like the best thing you want to kind of nibble on. I know of people that have done fritters, so you just kind of like take the whole bundle and then you dip it in some batter and then you fry it. The key idea though is that you want to make sure you don't eat too many of the stems. So the flowers themselves are edible, but the stems still have a little bit of those cyanogenic compounds.
And even if the flowers are edible, if you're doing it fritter style, you're still, you're cooking it to that minimum internal temperature.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
it should be cooking all that off. Yeah.
And if I've never eaten the raw flowers. I think that like a tea or Saint Germain.
Yeah. So there's a drink that was created. It's like a liqueur created in 2007, and it's called Saint Germain, and it's made with elderflowers. And basically, you can make that at home if you find enough elderflowers. Sure. I'm not sure the exact measurements, but basically you get a bunch of elderflower and a bottle of vodka, slice of... I used a slice of grapefruit because that was what I had on hand, but I'm pretty sure the recipe calls for lemon, which is a little bit more of a subtle acid. Sure. And you combine them all in a jar, let it sit for 5 days, take out the flowers, let it cool off for about 6 months, and then you have this Saint Germain, this elderflower-infused liqueur that you can use to make different cocktails. But yeah, there's like all sorts of different cocktails you can make with this liqueur. I've made things like the French gimlet, which is just kind of a type of martini.
It's honestly tasty on its own.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is a little bit. Yeah, I'd sip it on ice for sure.
Absolutely.
And anything including like a florally liqueur, some gin and some lime juice is gonna score pretty high for me.
Moving on to the berry.
Back to the berry.
Back to the berry. My top two.
Yeah.
Syrup, I think, is the number one.
Yes.
So there's several recipes available online where you take the berries, add a little H2O, maybe some cinnamon, sweeten it with some raw honey after it's started to cool. There's just a ton. You'll no doubt be able to find some with a quick Google search or your search engine of choice. The second is dehydrating and using as tea.
Oh yeah. So you steep the dried berries whole, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
And then this is also a pemmican used ingredient. I think maybe after it was dehydrated, I don't know.
Well, I imagine it's the dehydration happens in the pemmican making process. So you crush it all together, and then it's sun dried for however long it takes. Mm-hmm. And so that in and of itself is going to bring you above the 70 degrees in order to evaporate off that cyanogenic glycosides.
And this is just a huge medicinal herb throughout history. The Egyptians used
across
it.
the world.
Yeah, everyone. It's just proven to be, and I use the word proven, and I think it's more than just folklore at some point. So, just an example, the virus H1N1, the swine flu, how that virus works is it gets into your system somehow. You ingest it, and it sits in your system until your immune system is compromised, and then it attacks. And elderberry actually has a cofactor that acts as like a guard to your immune system when that happens. So it's actually
like a second defense.
Yeah, like proactively blocks that from happening.
Awesome.
Just having this in your system, you know. So I don't think it's like actively in your system, but like having
but if
regular
you take
ingestion,
it's regular part of your diet whenever you're able to preserve it as a syrup and be able to consume this type of thing like year round.
Mm-hmm. And that's just one example. I mean, I'm sure it has similar effects to other flus and things like that. There's just a ton of studies of possibilities of it doing this and that. They don't like to put a label on medicinal stuff because it takes away from the big box.
The people who like money the most.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But just look it up. I'm not making this up.
No, absolutely. There's tons of history that if anybody is interested, they should be looking into themselves. Us, however, like many of these other ingredients that we're passionate about, we have got to rein ourselves in a little bit, and we are at the end of this episode. We're really grateful that you guys joined us for another awesome reoccurrence of our show, and we hope that you find the time to rate and review us on whatever podcasting service that you listen to us on. Other than that, just make sure that you tell your friends that you listen to the coolest show in the world that helps you find the best food for free. And that will always be found the trail side, curbside, and in low tide. So see you next time.
See you, buds.